from what I've seen. In other words, there's no there. And I think that Hervé, as you say, had this very deep primal pain, like most human beings do, and he wanted something outside of himself to fill it up, and for a while it worked.
It's an ongoing battle, and like you said, I mean, Jamie, you know, I can't imagine what life is like for you having to navigate the world being who you are. As somebody who can probably relate to what that's like more than, you know, most people on the world, like how do you maintain your sense of self and groundedness? I mean, it's got to be mad.
A lot of it is doing methamphetamine.
Yeah, that, I mean,
you did a couple movies
which is incredible. I mean, he keeps it quiet.
It's pretty mellow. Yeah,
he's sort of dealing now. So if anyone wants to call in,
I think
medicate heavily.
Do we have a number then? That
it's 1-800 vegan.
My cell number is. To be honest with you, like I'm not conscious of it. It's not something that I am aware. I sometimes live in LA, but don't really live in LA. We live in the countryside, a couple of hours outside London. I see the first things I see in the morning are my beautiful little girls and my wife, and then some sheep and some cows, and our life is separate from whatever it is that people expect that comes with being in the public eye or whatever. I feel that was a decision that we made, that, you know, particularly because we have young kids and want to protect them from it. I don't want them to know what I do for a living until they really sort of have to, you know what I mean? And my feeling is that it's very isolated, I find, with recognition or fame or whatever. Within my life, it's isolated to moments where people know where you're going to be. If people know where you're going to be, you're fucked. But any other time you're grand, because especially if you live where we live, because there's no one out there, there's no paparazzi, we've chosen to separate ourselves from that. But if you're at a premiere or you're at an event or whatever it is where people know you're going to be, then it can be uncomfortable. But that is you're talking 5 days or nights a year.
Yeah,
and the rest of the time it's not my consciousness.
But are you aware, James, going through your life as you do? Are you aware what it would? Could you see how people could fall into?
Totally, and I always think you could make so much more. I mean, I'm not on social media. I think that's a great way to separate yourself from whatever it is, fame, recognition, whatever you want to call it. That's the key way of staying out of it, is not to be on social media. There's so much more you can make of it, and you could choose to, you know, which I think Hervé did, you know, make the most out of. And listen, I think part of that is down to the fact of his physical size and the opportunities that come, especially then. But even so now, that there's less opportunities in this sort of world to make money and to continue the ride. And I think Hervé was acutely aware of that and made the most of that, whereas Pete has the opportunity to, you know, make so much more out of who he is, and he's the lead in the biggest TV show in, you know, the last, you know, certainly decade, and he chooses not to do that. He has a pretty anonymous life in Brooklyn, and a very normal existence, and again isn't on social media, and that's something he's done to protect himself and his family. And so Pete and I, it's not the only reason we get on so well, but I think we both share that the same sort of approach to it. And it's just the idea of fame has so little interest to me. It's not. What do people most misunderstand about it? I think the biggest thing is that people think you're going to be. I'm trying to get away from saying like actors are humans too, but it's that thing of like, just said you're just people who do something different for a living. We just do something different to other people. But it's still a job. And I think the onus and the attention and the amount that is given to people who are fans, the amount of fucking magazines and the amount of shite websites and the amount of social media stuff, it's just fueling this need for people to know more. So then it exasperates that idea that if you're famous, you're like this untouchable thing. You're like you're other. Like, oh wow, they're not just fucking. They're on a yacht in South France.
Right,
I mean but that's the thing. I think the social media thing is absolutely key, and that's why I think the film, you know, if it has some timeliness, a large part of it is because of this meditation on fame, because since Hervé lived in the past 25 years, particularly in the past 10 to 15, the idea of the value of celebrity and the value of fame being sort of elevated to this kind of almost princely kind of otherworldly level of kind of achievement and importance. I mean, I find it really disturbing when young kids who I run into or whatever, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be famous. Like, they think they can go on American Idol and, people don't understand that it takes a ton of work. It takes years of work. They say it takes 20,000 hours of something to get good or to get excellent at any particular skill. And I think what's worrying is a lot of kids growing up with this incredible entitlement. And they're on Instagram, which to me is basically a big promotional campaign for either your business or to boast and say how incredibly happy you are. For me, the people who insist on how happy they are usually aren't. And you've got young kids growing up kind of comparing their insides with other people's outsides. And so I don't think, there could be a better time to really speak to ultimately the hollowness and emptiness of something which is so ephemeral and meaningless, and people famous for being what? For being on a TV show. To me, it's a very, in a strange way, strangely degraded time in culture where we've got to get back to just being real human beings and stop.
Like some U-turn though.
Yeah, it's going to take no, but I'm saying I agree, and it's worrying, and I think we need to be discussing this stuff. We need to be telling kids, listen, fame is like it was for Hervé. That Jamie and Peter's attitude toward it, exactly the right one, because it will devour you. It will swallow you. And if you give yourself over to it, there is nothing there except a whole bunch of, suicidal depression. And
I think that the projection there, I think you've touched on something that's exactly how I see it, is that anyone who meets me who doesn't know me, everyone who meets me who doesn't know me has a projection of what I am.
It's not even their fault.
No, and listen, we were all probably guilty of that a wee bit, like with people we meet.
Listen, I did the same thing with Hervé when I met him.
Of course.
I projected onto him the
and it's something we can all work on trying to not do. But I think for me, from the other side of it, I guess, is that like you're fucked the moment you live up to the projection. That's when you're fucked.
Or you start playing to it.
Because we all know. I know what the projection of me is. Like, and people, I don't know.
What is that? What is it?
It's probably not something massively positive. I think people think I'm just going to be a tool, like a total.
But you know what's? But can I say what's really interesting is because this whole film is about being judged. One of the themes is how we all prejudge and rush to judgment. In a way, what I love about Peter and Jamie in the film is the audience will bring their preconceptions about whatever they think. And you're talking about two people who have, for large parts of their life probably, been judged on their looks. But, it's superficial. Once you peel away the layers, once you actually try and interrogate what is the truth, who are these people, it's, as Jamie says, so different to what you imagine. And we also want to discuss that, the idea that you can't literally, that old maxim, you can't judge a book by its cover. You really don't know. It may seem a certain way, and your word seem was appropriate before, because the way things seem or appear, they're mostly not that way.
Yeah, that's a super interesting point. Because somebody who doesn't know anything can go into the movie and go, oh, it's the 50 Shades guy, it's the Game of Thrones guy, what is this going to be? And immediately they're in a place of prejudging something before they've seen a frame.
Yeah.
And I think what Jamie and I...
And that's what the movie's about as well.
Exactly.
So we're back to the meta...
Which is exactly why I think Jamie and I recognize that it was a great opportunity, because look, for most people in my world, for example, being British, growing up in England, people actually know Jamie for The Fall, which is one of the most incredible series for which he was nominated for a BAFTA. I mean, it's incredible performance,
That's what I know you from.
But a lot of you have to understand, a lot of people in mainstream America don't know that series necessarily. They don't necessarily watch The Fall on Netflix, or they don't know The Siege of Jadotville, or they don't know all the interesting projects that he's done over so many years. They just know him for this sort of massive commercial behemoth. So for us, there was the opportunity to completely defy those expectations and perceptions. And that's one of the things that so many people who don't know Jamie's work in depth have seen the film and said, oh my God, Dornan is so completely different to how I imagined. I mean, he's, I'm the director, so I can say, but I think his performance in the film is pretty fucking incredible.
Yeah,
and it defies what a lot of people think. And so that is absolutely something we were conscious of playing with. And I think you wanted to play with too, right? For certain parts of the audience.
No.
He didn't.
No.
Yeah.
It's confusing to watch that show because what he does is so reprehensible and incomprehensible, and yet there's a humanity to him.
You have some empathy, right?
He seems like he's a pretty good dad. And
that was our point, or what we were trying to get across. Is it not to compare famous actors to serial killers, but there is an element of like that thing of how you're perceived or portrayed, or they're humans too. I mean, it's that thing of like you can have the guy next door who holds down a really good job and who has a wife and 2 kids and be seemingly normal from the outside, and he's killing people at night. I mean, that's a thing. That's a real thing. I don't know. I watched a lot of interviews with Ted Bundy and
Ted Bundy was a lot like that.
Dude,
right?
he's an impressive person to listen to. He's so eloquent, clearly so bright, charming. By the time just before he was killed, I mean, he wasn't hiding the craziness as well as that sort of, other footage you see of him from before he was found out. But he, for all intents and purposes, he's a normal dude.
Yeah.
So
apart from this slight psychopathic part,
on the surface,
but he's compartmentalized. It's just this little area. You're right, exactly like any normal guy, apart from the fact he has this additional he likes to kill people part.
That was early mid-90s, right?
Yeah.
Imagine it now in the clickbait culture that we live. I mean, the pressure to, create sensationalism out of these short, stupid articles is unprecedented.
And totally at the mercy of the editor. To jump in on that, I've had many interviews in my career where you're always tempted to ask them at the end to be nice, will you just be nice? Will you write someone nice? We've had a nice afternoon, please don't turn this into a hatchet job. And that's exactly what's happened. I've left and gone, oh, that was really nice. I didn't embarrass myself, I don't think. We talked, he seemed very non-judgmental, and it all went well. And then it'll come out and it made me come across like a fucking prick.
Wanker. Yeah, this is typical.
Misquoted.
Wait till you hear the edit that I'm going to do on this podcast.
Well, we're going to hear that bit.
What's the title?
You're going to revoice me?
It's just a short mini essay, Jamie Dornan cunt. That's what it's called. It's very short, and it's going to be a great piece. I can't wait.
It's all about the
Jamie, when we first met, I was like, listen, man, this has to become your own.
Yeah.
Because I just got to direct a film. I can't be like, oh, this is what, I 25 years ago would have done that. That's just a waste of time. So Jamie said, look, I'm going to do it as me. I'm going to do it in my Irish accent, and I'm going to make it as much me as you, sort of.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, great. So there wasn't really that ever a conflict.
We had I think we pushed each other.
In
quite monumentous ways at times.
We did, but not about that.
Not about that, no. More about just you touching me.
I mean, I still say it was not inappropriate.
But yeah, it was. This story means so much to Sacha, and through time, not very much time at all, really meant so much to Peter and I as well. And emotions were high a lot of the time, and a lot of what we're dramatizing is very high stakes stuff and very emotional stuff, and that carries through to the actual doing of it becomes something in itself that is very emotional, and the lines become blurred, and
there were
and
really,
if you get what you think's a wrong note at the wrong time, and I mean, Sacha and I love each other dearly. You're the closest I've ever come to punching a director I would say.
And I'm probably the closest I ever came to punching an actor.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very intense, but it was intense because of several things, because of the time pressure we were under. Because also, I felt like, and this is a fair thing, Jamie, like, I would push Jamie beyond where he wanted to go. But when I did that, which I didn't do all the time, but maybe on 2 or 3 occasions when we were shooting, you know, I said, you've just got to trust me, Jamie. You need to go farther. And it was his discomfort and his, you know, whatever he was going through that actually fed into the performance. This is a guy who's on edge, who's not comfortable, who's out of his comfort zone, who's terrified, who's angry. And so what we did was created that emotional environment.
So basically what he's saying is he was right.
I'm not saying that's right.
What we're getting
but
at
come
here,
on, when you look at the film, no, Jamie, this is serious. When you look at the film now and you think about all the stuff, pretty much everything we did, even the 2 or 3 times where I push you too far, are in the film.
Potentially, yeah. I haven't seen the final cut.
Well, so it's not about right or wrong, but he was right also because he was like, how do I deal with this fucking director? It's his, you know. So I think that, but out of that came something real.
I mean, we'll never work.
Right. Well, he could just project that emotional state onto Peter on screen.
Well, I mean, Peter, we had also similar.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You know, there was a lot, and also there was a lot between the two of them. You know,
I know it was very claustrophobic at times. We were literally inside a fucking limo, you know, like a shell of a limo, you know, like a set limo set that was
Ealing
no bigger
Studios,
than a
and we were shooting through the weekend because we had no time, and the pressure of making the film absolutely informed the atmosphere, and of course the performances. But the whole movie is about pressure. It's about this pressure that builds. So it worked for the film, but going through
you definitely get the sense from you, Jamie. You're like, get me out of this limo,
which is exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And also, he said to me at times, "Get me out of this film. Is it too late to fucking cast someone else?" So I had Andrew Garfield on standby.
Of course, yeah. He was in the boot,
he was
in the trunk,
ready to step in.
We got to wrap it up. You guys got to get on the road to some other more important interview. I could talk to you guys for hours about this. There's so many other things I wanted to get into with you.
You should finish up with any final points you wanted to make?
Well, are you queuing me up to say nice things about the movie?
No, I'm queuing up to make final points.
No,
I've got to use the toilet.
I did love the movie. It was emotional for me. I think you did a beautiful job. And like I said, as somebody who has, you know, from arm's length been on, you know, sort of in a sidecar on this journey, witnessing it from afar, I'm super proud of you for making this movie, for fulfilling your vision. On some level, it perfectly bookends Anvil, because Anvil is about the quest to achieve some level of fame and stardom and success, and this serves as a sort of reminder, counterpoint to what can happen if you're not paying attention to your insides and you're not grounded and you don't have a healthy relationship with who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And I thought it was beautifully executed. Jamie, you were amazing in the movie. And
really incredible. No, I mean, I was blown away. You know what was amazing for me, just having a front row seat to this, was sometimes just watching the monitor and seeing what Jamie and Peter were doing and go, fuck, man, you know, it was so much better than I had hoped it was going to be. And it was just a privilege to witness it as well as birth it, you know, and all that stuff.
Christ.
Okay, but on your subject of wanting to pay attention to the insides, can I use the fucking loo now?
Yeah, you can. The movie premieres on HBO everywhere worldwide on October 20th, right?
And from there,
yeah, everybody check it out. I saw the billboard on Sunset. Looks amazing. It's
mega
beautiful as always, Jamie.
Billboard.
Yeah,
thanks
for doing this, you guys.
Thanks, Rich. We love you, man.
Thanks, guys. Peace.
Cheers.
My mic wasn't on.